Welcome to the Tabletop Gaming Guild podcast, a podcast all about the experiences and memories that board games with friends and family can create. On this episode, we're going to take a detailed look at the game Quacks of Quedlinburg.
Has everyone played the different levels, or just have you guys only played the one first level?
So me and Ken have played the game a number of times, and we've been playing each set 2 or 3 times to get a sense of what the set can do before moving on to the next set. And at that progression, we haven't hit set 4 yet. 3 out of the 4 sets.
All right.
We haven't done anything crazy, like randomly mix them up to do something terrible.
So we've played all 4 sets. We've played the variant, and we've mixed them up.
What's the variant?
So the variant, I'll explain in a minute. So we'll get to that part. It's actually not that much. So there's not very much difference between playing the regular game and the variant, but I'll explain in a minute.
The Quacks of Quedlinburg is a 2018 game by Wolfgang Warsch.
All right. In Quacks of Quedlinburg, once every year, the city of Quedlinburg holds a 9-day bazaar within its city walls. The country's best miracle doctors and quack surgeons gather in one place to showcase their healing remedies. Smelly feet, homesickness, hiccups, and love problems. These charlatans have a unique cure for whatever ails you. During the game, players draw from the ingredient bag in hopes of creating the best potion. The better potion, the more coins that you will have to buy superior ingredients. But be careful, too many of these special ingredients and a whole pot could explode. So do you press your luck, hoping for the magic elixir? Or do you play it safe in hopes for bigger gains and more valuable ingredients later? That is for you to find out, maybe the hard way. So stockpile your most valuable ingredients and get brewing. Your next potion must be your best one. So Quacks of Quedlinburg in the game is definitely a push your luck game.
And Quacks of Quedlinburg for 2 to 4 players, runs about 45 minutes. Recommended age is 10 or better. BGG gives it a weight of 195, so which I think is about right. In this game, you have a bag. In this bag is several chits. And each round, you're pulling chits out of the bag. And the white chits are the dangerous ones, because if you pull a white chit out of the bag and the total value of all your white chits exceeds 7, then your potion is exploded, which is bad, but it's not the end of the world. So at the beginning of the game, you start with 1 orange and 1 green. You start with white A3, right? 2 2s and 4, what is it? Is it 3 or 4 1s? 4 1s in your white ones, right? Yeah. And then at the beginning of round 6, out of 9, you add 1 more of white value 1 to your bag.
Yeah, that's correct. And those are cherry bombs. And your orange is a pumpkin, and your green is a spider.
Yeah, and you have this array of chits at the side of the board that you can purchase over the game, and you toss them in your bag so that you're pulling more stuff out of your bag as the game goes on. So it is a bag builder, mechanically, in addition to being push your luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about strategy later. Just like the turn sequence, right? Because this is what I usually do when I teach games, right? Is I tell people this is what's going to happen during a turn. So at the beginning of each round of play, the first thing that happens is you flip over a fortune teller card. Now, the game's got 24 fortune teller cards in it, and you're only going to see 9 of them, right? The fortune teller card will be either something that happens right away, so it's a bonus or an opportunity that everyone can take advantage of, or it's a effect that will last for the duration of that round. The different rounds of play in the game play out differently based on the event card, as well as how people have built their bags. So the players are differentiated from each other as well.
So one thing we haven't really mentioned is the goal. As you're drawing from your bag, the whole element of the push your luck is as you draw these tokens, the further you get, the more items you have in your pot, basically the further you get along this track. The more potential points you have, the more spending power you have for the next round to buy more things to put into your pot. So yeah, your goal is to just draw as much as you can without busting, and then trying to buy more to put in to potentially get for the next round.
And you have 5 different boards to pick from, and 2 that never change. There's 7 boards to pick from, or books, and only 2 of them aren't available until the second round. which is the mandrakes and the ghosts. Now, each of these have different numeric values on them, except for the two that always stay the same. The pumpkin is always a 1, and the moth is also always a 1. But you can have a 1 chip, a 2 chip, and a 4 chip. But what will end up happening is whenever you pull something from the bag, whatever number's on there is how many you move forward from the last marker you put down. And the goal in the game is to get farthest along the pot, and there's 3 different things that can be on any one space. One is a ruby, and if that's the last spot you end on, you get a ruby. The other thing is a point and a purchase number. So those are the 3 things that are on every single space. The other thing to push you even further is after every round, which the game has 9 rounds, after every round, the person who made it the farthest, or persons if they're tied, gets to roll a bonus die. And the bonus die will give you 1, 2 points. It could give you a pumpkin. It could move your water droplet forward, which is the starting point each round. So moving that water droplet forward lets you start farther and farther down the track. And the other thing is it could give you a ruby. After that, your different books, the different chits that you purchase, some of them have special bonuses that you get based on placement and stuff. And then that's the next thing you score on. So if you have, let's say, your spider, if it's the last one, will give you in one iteration a ruby. And it's different based on the levels. And there's 4 different levels per book, except for the 2 basic starting ones. Once that's done, the next thing you have is if you landed on a spot with a ruby, you collect the ruby. Then, this is the important part, if you did explode, meaning you pushed your luck too far, you then have to pick of whether you're going to get points or purchase things. And there is a lot of strategy in just blowing up early in the game, because you're not going to make it very far along the track, but you could push your purchase power up higher, so you could buy more better chits.
Yeah, this is like a classic engine building mechanism, because each round you have an opportunity to purchase chits to add to your bag. The more non-white chips that are in your bag, the farther you're going to progress that track, and the more stuff you're going to be able to do in future rounds. So by pulling a couple extra chits out of your bag and exploding, you've pushed up your purchase power by maybe 3 or 4, which means maybe you get 2 chits instead of 1, or maybe you get 2 better chits instead of 2 worse chits. Maybe you buy like a green 2 and a black instead of like a pumpkin and a I don't even know what.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things too, like when you're paying attention to the game and all these different books that you can get and where you're placing yourself, there's a lot of opportunities to get more chits than what you can purchase. Like each round, if you do purchase chits, so let's say you didn't blow up, you got the points, then you purchase your chits. You can only purchase 2, and they can't be the same type. So what that means is in 9 rounds, you're only going to have 18 chits added to your bag. So there's different powers that each of these things can give you, the books. And there's different ways to sneak in getting extra chits. One of them is if you get the bonus die, you can roll the pumpkin and get a pumpkin put in. And the different levels, some of them make it a lot easier for you to get these chits added. So by diluting the cherry bombs, Dan's right, that's the good thing. You don't want to draw those cherry bombs. The other thing that is worth mentioning on there to finish up the round, so basically you do those 2 things. You got your points, you buy your stuff, and then there's rubies in the game that you gain in different various ways. You start with 1, but once you get 2, at the end of the round you can turn them in to either flip your flask back over or move your water droplet forward. And we didn't talk about the flask.
The flask is a risk mitigation mechanic, right? So if you draw a white chit out of your bag and that white chit has not caused you to explode, you can flip your flask, toss it in your bag, re-randomize, and redraw.
The same chit.
Yeah. No, that's
it's
what
100%
happens
how
to me.
that works.
That's what happens to me all the time. Yeah, no. That's one of the things that's important about the mechanics of this game. Is that the contents of your bag are, you know what it is when the game starts because everyone starts the same. Once you start buying chits, you don't know the contents of your bag. You're not allowed to look at any point in time.
And I really do like that a lot. At the end of the round, everyone gets to look at their score. And based on where you're at, you'll get rat tails. So the people that are farther behind will get more rat tails. And the game has a sort of built-in catch-up mechanic. So what the rat tails do is you have a rat stone, and you get to remove that rat stone forward however many rat tails you have. So I don't know how you guys feel about catch-up mechanics. I'll tell you my thoughts in a second, but what were you guys' thoughts on the rat tails mechanism on this point?
This was my first time ever coming into contact with something like this. I've never seen a catch-up mechanic, as far as I know, in the games that I have played. Yeah, this one is so blatant, for sure. But I personally found it very interesting because it adds to people's strategy.
Yes.
You know it's there, you know it's coming, so you can strategize with that in mind. And again, it kind of blew my mind for sure about the game, because I was like, wait a second, you're way in the back, but somehow that helped you absolutely win. Like, there was no way you were not going to win this round because of how far forward 14 freaking rat tails put you just now.
Yeah, this definitely ties into the whole exploding on purpose strategy for the first couple of rounds, where you can push forward and push for more buy power and not care that you didn't score the points, because you're going to get those rat tails in the next turn to make up for the points you lost.
Yeah, except for when every single player does the same thing. And you're like, well, everyone blew up, so no one rolls a die.
So, yeah, we had a pretty cool play together. So, me, Pete, my brother Ken, Nathan, you were there, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And I would have won if you hadn't drawn that card that doubled the rat tails.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So we got an event card that doubled the rat tails.
Yeah.
And Ken, my sneaky brother, was super behind and had literally like 12 rat tails the one round. So, yes, it's a catch-up mechanic. It's perfectly obvious what it is doing. It's giving everyone who's not in first place a buff so that they can push ahead of the first place player. And I think that this particular catch-up mechanism is actually very effective at doing what it's supposed to do. It really does put those players that are behind on the scoreboard a good chance to turn it around on any given round.
Yeah, and it's really good it's good for the strategy too. I agree. I do like the strategy of falling behind a little bit and maybe blowing up and having a little extra money to buy some super awesome, powerful chits so that I can have really good turn.
Yeah, so for me, like, never having come into contact with a catch-up mechanic, especially one apparently as well built into the game as this one is, I was not prepared. I made sure I did not blow up 4 or 5 rounds. And then all of a sudden, it's like, I saw Ken get like 24 ahead of everybody because of this doubled up rat tail, and I was like, holy crap. I didn't realize that I could have been laying off a little bit. I could have blown up as much as I wanted early on with this same idea. I had no idea. So it kind of opened up my eyes to this new mechanic that I had not seen in a game before. And I think it's very well built into the game if you know that it's coming, especially if you happen to get doubled up on that nice card. So
it makes you pay attention to the other players.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you're playing at the same time, except for the last round, you're drawing just whatever till you blow up or whatever. But each round you have to watch the other players, because you don't want to be the guy that's just way ahead in points and then everyone else in the first couple rounds. So if you see other people are doing that, that's when you blow yourself up.
Yeah, you just start joining them, right?
Right, you start pushing it. You want to get more buying power at that point and let them catch up. You'll get better stuff.
Yeah,
So.
and I'll have to also say, as a contrast, like a lot of games that do use catch-up mechanics, it's often almost a compensation for a flaw in the game, where they're trying to keep from runaway leaders, and it's usually something they try to conceal. This doesn't do this. This does it really well. You know, for example, you have games that will actually straight up punish the leader, say, oh, the person that's in the lead loses 5 points for no apparent reason. You know, the fact that this is they don't try to conceal this at all. It's there. It's part of the strategy. You know it's there. You can work with it. Makes this a very strong catch-up mechanic.
And it is there to prevent a runaway leader scenario, because if it wasn't there, this would be a classic, like, engine-building snowball where the rich gets richer and the game's decided, like, halfway through.
I do really like it. It makes you, I agree with both of you, it makes you have to think about it. It makes you have to pay attention to other players. And I really like games that make you have to pay attention to other players. Even though I like my Agricola and other games, I already know what you're going to say. Even though I like them. In Agricola, you do have to pay attention to other players once you play it so much. But yeah, Euros, some of them, Castles of Burgundy for all intents and purposes, I don't need to pay attention to anybody. I mean, they do take stuff. There's a little bit.
Quacks of Quedlinburg is still very much a parallel processing game, and but what I mean by that is each player is sort of like playing the game, just paying attention to their own stuff for the most part. Your relative position on the scoreboard and the bonus you get from rat tails is like the only interaction you have with other players. I mean, I guess if you're playing with like 3 or 4 and like 3 out of the 4 players decide to play the same strategy, there's a race to get the chits. If they're all playing the same strategy, somebody could run out one of the piles of chits so that there are no more like green ones left, for example. Everyone wanted to get green ones for whatever reason. But yeah, that's the only other point that I could think of.
4-player games I would play, that was it. You had to watch the other players because we ran out of chits like 1s and 2s all the time.
Yeah, I would say for a game that you're just playing a board that's in front of you and you're like kind of playing your own game, it doesn't feel like you're just playing on yourself. It does it pretty well in that this is a game you tend to have vocal reactions, and you tend to pay attention to the vocal reactions other people are having, so you know if they're doing well or they're doing poorly. So you know how far you want to push.
Right, you're sitting there with your hand in your bag going, do I take one more? And you hear the person next to you go, I think I'm going to take one more. And you're like, oh dear.
The other one I was going to say is the moth token is one that you have to pay attention to too.
Oh yeah.
Because the moth token is extremely expensive for what it is, but you can get a really big push ahead. You are the only one that gets it.
Well, I was going to say in our game, that's one that I very quickly started purchasing that chit because I realized what it could do, and I started also paying attention. I would look on the board and I would see, okay, like who has one or more of these than I already have out. So that was one that I paid attention to a lot during our playthrough.
Yeah, I always watch purchasing of that moth. So I'll get one, and if my opponent gets one, okay. If they get a second, then I have to get a second.
You gotta buy a second one.
Yeah, that it encourages you to have more than the other players, but not too many more than the other players, because the odds of them, multiples coming out of your bag and whatnot, especially late in the game, it sort of gets diminishing returns. But the bonus for the black chit, the moth that we're talking about, listeners, is if you have more moths than both the players next to you, you get a water droplet advance. If you have more than just one of the players next to you, you get a ruby, which, end of round bonus is half of a water droplet advance.
Actually, it's worse than that. So if you have more than both of the players next to you, you get a water droplet and a ruby. If you have more than one, you just move your water droplet. That's the 3 and 4 player one.
Okay, yep, you're right.
It is such a good thing. That one is one of the nastiest ones in the whole game. Because your values range between, I think the cheapest is 3, and the most expensive is 21, I think. And your median is under 10. So 10 is pretty expensive to be paying for that.
Yeah, it varies based on which set of the 4 sets of books you use. I do see a 21 cost on like set 3 green.
Now, most of the costs, I will say, don't hit 20.
Yeah.
They're like 19, 18. So 10 is up there. And you definitely don't want to keep buying them, even though it's a really cool advantage to the game.
And I think the numbers almost seem like they're designed just to make it a little bit difficult to match it up, to get that nice pair that perfectly maxes out with how much purchasing power you have.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There were many times in the game that we played together where I was buying 2 chits, sure, but I was 2 or 3 that purchased power that was left unspent. That part's strategy, though, too, because a lot of these special powers become better if you invest in the same color, right? So if you start buying blue chits, then the more blue chits you get, the more value you're going to get off of that ability. The set 1 green, a green chit needs to be last or next to last in your pot in order for you to get a ruby. That's what it does. That's only going to trigger and happen if you have a decent number of greens in your bag.
Right. So purchasing more of those on there. And there's other ones, like when you start the game, you get to pick which level ones you do. And they ask that you start with 1 and then you do each level individually. But some of them will say that if you have 1 mandrake one, if you have 3 mandrakes out, you have to have 9 or greater before you blow up. But if you have 1 or 2 out, it's 8 or greater.
Yeah.
So,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And then there's a couple that say, like, when you place this chit, you move the other one its value full, which is really nice, too.
My personal favorite is still the Crow Skull for the base, the first set.
That one where you have a level 1, you put it out, you pick 1 chit out, you can decide to keep it or throw it back in the bag. it's a level 2, you can pull 2 out and pick one of them or throw both of them back. And if it's a level 4, you get all 4, I think.
Yeah,
and
you get to
pick
draw
one
4.
Which is really cool.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's good, especially if you pair it with those skulls or pairing it with the toadstools that let you move further. So you're making sure you get the things that you really want out.
That's something we should also mention as well. There is some combo building, I guess, in this deck. Not a heck of a lot. But like in set 1, the red chip, the strawberries, interact positively if you've also invested in a decent number of pumpkins, for example. And also in set 1, green chits and black chits, and I think purple chits can all net you rubies. So if you invest in some combination of the 3, you've got this ruby heavy strategy, and you can use the rubies for the water droplet advance or the refilling the potion, whichever direction you want to go.
Yeah, and between the blue, the crow skulls, and the mandrakes, those are kind of tend to be focused on like risk mitigation.
Yeah. So the next step where you go over in the beginning of every round, what did you guys think of the fortune teller cards? Because you flip a fortune teller card, the person's turn it is, reads it off. What did you guys think of that? It's very random, and it makes you always want to keep at least 1 ruby.
Yeah, no, we got that one too, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I thought the fortune telling cards were a really nice added mechanic to the game. I enjoy the randomness of it. You don't know whatever your strategy is in the game, that's great, but you don't know what's going to come up next that might totally throw you off for the next round. And it's only going to be for that round, so is it worth it to worry all that much about that? But I always think I thought it was a nice added bonus to it, for sure.
I agree. None of them are too crazy.
No, not too crazy.
I don't think
except for the doubling of the rat tail. Too crazy.
Only because he had like 12.
Too crazy.
Yeah.
Too crazy.
I think the fortune teller cards are a good thing in the game. I think they create variant without being like so impactful that they make the rest of the game meaningless.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't totally throw off whatever strategy you've been playing. It just changes it up a little bit for you for each round.
Most of them are positive, so they're mostly like opportunities or bonuses, at least the ones that I've seen.
Yeah, they're always, they're opportunities or bonuses. There's at least one that is, or 2 that are like the lowest, the person in last a bonus. Like there's one where the person in last gets a 1 chip, I believe. Okay. And there's one where the people with the least rubies get a ruby, which isn't quite the same. But yeah, there's at least 2 that are like that. But in general, they're all either a bonus that everyone shares.
And they're nice in that they don't seem to have like a huge impact on the overall game, but when they come up, they seem a lot more important than they probably really are.
Could be.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, they have an impact, but they're not impactful to the overall game arc, I guess, would be the way to put it. No, he's going to win or lose off the event card.
Right. If you have a good strategy, it's not going to tank your strategy.
Maybe if you had like 12 rat tails and you pulled the double rat tail card, round 9, last one. That might make the game for you. But
that game. But that doesn't happen.
I think that's an anomaly.
It's a very specific situation. It's a very specific card out of a 30-card deck. So.
And even with that, I'll go in. Okay, so basically you do this through 8 rounds, and then your 9th round is just you just score. And you take your buying power and you divide it by 5, and you get those points too. So the 9th round's just scoring. Thing is, in the game, you can only go so far, and then anything beyond that is just not taken. And the problem is then like with a level 1, level 2, and maybe the level 3 card books, you can get away with getting that big bonus for the rat tails. But with level 3 and level 4 books, you halfway through the game, you're probably getting 10 points a turn. So if he wouldn't have had a chance, even with that, because we were maxing out our potion stuff, at least in level 4, the last round or the second to last round, it was fairly frequent. Yeah. So
part of that comes with experience too, because when the 4 of us played, we played with set 1 of the books, and we had a very high scoring game. In the games that I've played, we usually both end up on the last row of the score track, which is like 40 to 50 roughly, right?
Yeah.
That game, I think Pete was in last and he was at 49.
Yeah, I think I was the only one who did not go around the board totally.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I will say that we played the level 1 game 4 times, and all the other levels we played twice. And playing that often with that many times, really you can start crushing it because you get those different things memorized. And it was really a lot of fun, like once you go through all those, to mix the levels.
Yep.
And just pick them.
I haven't gotten to mixing levels yet, but I'm looking forward to it, actually.
It could get crazy. Now, that leads into one thing, that if you want to tone it down a little bit after that point, like you've played it that much and you're like, okay, I got this. I need to have people, have a different outlet to go with. You could play the variant. Now, simply.
So, yeah, what is this variant?
Simply. With the variant, and all it is you're going to flip the board, and on the other side of the board, you're going to use that extra water droplet that came with the game. And you're going to place that water droplet on the far left of this row of beakers. And what will happen is when you get to move your water droplet forward, you can pick whether you're going to move the water droplet in your cauldron or the water droplet along the beakers. And when you move the water droplet along the beakers, you get different bonuses. You might get a ruby, you get some points, you get some chits, you get some very expensive ones. And there's a lot of points to be gained on here, but what will end up happening is you have to decide whether you want to go this route or move your cauldron forward. If you don't move your cauldron forward, you're not going to necessarily start where you would like to along that track. But you can get quite a bit of points from and cool extra chits from those beakers. So it adds an extra layer to the game. And I would highly recommend not using it or not playing it until you've played it a bunch. Because if you haven't played this a bunch, what's going to end up happening is if you don't know why you're getting these things on the bottom, like you don't know how to really combo those books that are on the top, then all it's going to do is cause that person to have a harder time winning. Where if you learn those books and you get all the tricks in, the test tubes on the bottom, those bonuses they can give you can really help out. And you really know what you can balance. But I highly recommend playing with that variant if you played it a lot.
Yeah, I haven't tried that variant yet. I gotta try that. It looks pretty interesting. And I've played a fair amount of this game, so.
Yeah.
I'll admit that I haven't tried that variation as well. I know it exists because it's printed in the rules. It's not like an online variant that somebody else came up with. They put it in the base game. So
for Peter, I recommend going through all 4 levels first, so don't drag him into that.
All I can say is I want to play this game again. I've played it once, and at the end of the game, I would have been happy to immediately play it again.
You can't really get any better recommendation than that.
No, right?
Yeah, if you go through a game and you're thinking about the game afterwards, and you're thinking about how you want to try to get to play it again, it's a good game.
Yeah, I've been watching videos about it. I've been looking up things about it. I'm ready to play this game again. So
hit me up. This is one of my favorites. I'll play it online with.
Fantastic.
So that gets to the overall impressions that you have of the game. So if you were to sum up your experience with the game, what would it be?
So it being my first time playing this game, I loved learning this catch-up mechanic that I've not seen in a game before. And apparently, it's done incredibly well in this game as compared to some other games where it's not used as efficiently. So I loved that mechanic. I thought it was a great idea. I enjoyed that it keeps the people in last in the game longer, and it can be a strategy. I enjoy push your luck, and I think that this is a very fun push your luck game. So, if you can remember, if you can keep track of how many chits you're putting in your bag, you start to think, okay, what's the percentage of what I'm going to pull out of this bag? What's it going to be? You get that fun part of the game as well. And I think the pieces, everything that they built into the game itself is incredibly well done, and I can't wait to play it again. That was my first reaction to the game.
Right, and that's great. And did you feel were you getting, when you purchased your chits and stuff, were you feeling like you were getting good combos, or at least getting out of it what you expected?
So Dan was nice and let me know about especially the red-orange combo at the beginning of the game. So I kind of understood that going into it. It didn't play out for me as well as I was hoping for, especially early on. It did a little bit later in the game, but it was a nice thing to kind of know about it early on and be prepared for it. And again, it wasn't until as the game was going, probably about midway, that I started to realize the importance that could be of the black chits. And when I realized that, I made sure to go ahead and purchase, at that point I made sure to get at least 3 of them so that I was comparable to everybody else, and that played out for me really nicely a couple times as well. So yeah, as you learn the mechanics of the game, you can start to really make it work for you, again, as long as you get that luck of the draw. So
yeah. And I think the game is easy to teach, but I think it is a game that you have to play at least once.
Oh yeah.
Before you really get to it.
Yeah. You can teach it as much as you want, but you're going to have to learn it as well.
Right.
You're going to have to learn how those mechanics work. So
Nathan, what is your overall impression of Quacks of Quedlinburg?
I think this is a strong game that is exactly what it says it is. The theme works well. It's well integrated into the game. It's fun. It's light. It says it's 45 minutes long, and it is. And it sounds pretty spot on. It's 2 to 4 players. It plays really well with 4, and I wouldn't mind trying this with 2 or 3. It works really well with 3. I've tried that, but I haven't tried 2. But I can't see it having a problem with any of those play counts. So yeah, it does exactly what it says it does. It does it well. It's fun. It's light. I'm actually really impressed with this designer. This is one of his first games, and every game he's come out with is big hit. This is the only one I've actually played myself, and he made the Mine 2, which is a game that was really popular. I'll probably never play it because it's not my type of game. He made Gone Son Clever. He made Taverns of Tiefenfall. His big thing now is Wavelength, which again is probably a game I'll never play, but it's really popular. He's been doing really well.
Yeah, I'd say most of his games are games I'm not going to play, but Quacks of Quedlinburg is definitely good.
You're not going to play Taverns of Tiefenfall? That seems like a good game. It's all about running a little shop.
That one I want to try.
Yeah, I might try it.
And I wouldn't mind Gone Son Clever. Just the Mine and Wavelength are just so totally not my type of game, especially the Mine.
I could see me playing Gone Son Clever with my daughters and stuff. All right, Dan, what's your overall impression?
Well, I bought the game. How about that for
there you
starters?
go.
Right? I own a physical copy of this. It's one of my favorite newer games in my collection, that's for sure. This crossed my radar because it was a popular title, right? I had heard stuff about it through my network, as it were, and I was like, I should check that out at some point in time. It took me a while to actually check it out. Once I did, however, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. First of all, I like engine building games in general, and this is a bag builder. So you are building a little combo engine when you're putting chits in your bag. And the push your luck mechanic is something I knew Ken would be all over. Because whenever there's a push your luck mechanic in a game, he usually does a little bit better than I do at it. This one will probably fairly match that because I've got a better mind for the combo building, but yeah, no, this is 100% solid for me.
It has really good production quality too.
Mm-hmm.
I was really impressed with how thick the cardboard is, and you get nice little bags.
Yeah, I know there's premium plastic available through Board Game Geek, but it would take quite a while for you to wear down enough of the cardboard bits to consider replacement. So
well, people are actually playing this game the hundreds of times it takes to wear down those chits till they're unusable.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I think I just use the coin holders. Like go to Michael's and get the little coin holders and put them in there.
Yeah. That's the other possible solution is coin cases or top loaders or whatever you call them.
Cuts a clink when you put them in there.
I'm looking forward to actually seeing the physical game because I've only played it on Tabletop Simulator so far. And again, just visually seeing that representation of it, I could tell the amount of detail they put into it. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing the physical game. And again, this is one that I played it once. I'm willing to pay the however much it is to own a physical copy of this game because I really like it a lot. I think I can teach it to my friends pretty easily. I think they'll want to play it as well. So
I don't even think it's that expensive of a game.
Yeah, I forgot how much.
$50.54 or something.
Okay.
But they put enough in this game. They put, the later games like this, I usually get tired of pretty quickly, but they put enough content in this one that you have enough variation, and it can be different every time just by switching things up a little bit. So I think it's worth the buck.
Yeah, you pick one of the 4 sets of books to start at, and then the event cards are always going to make the game different.
Right.
And there's an expansion available already, but I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, and in case the base game wears out on you, you can pick up the Herb Witches, which gives you another 4 sets of books.
That was going to be my question. I knew there was an expansion, but I didn't know what it added into the game. So has anyone played with the expansion yet?
I have not. It's something I'm probably going to do, mainly because it adds a 5th player.
Oh, okay.
And I have 3 daughters and my wife, so 5 players. So we've been having to have someone sit out.
Gotcha.
Sounds dangerous.
And this is one of those games that really doesn't change it very much if you add a 5th player.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
And having more books to pick from, great.
Right.
So all in all, a win for that.
Yeah, there's one more thing that the expansion adds, so it more books, and that's like the actual Herb Witches. And I know that adds additional mechanic to the game. I think you could visit the witches for some benefit, but don't call
Well,
it
that always ends good. But don't worry about it. Nothing will bad.
Nothing go bad. So, but there's no new ingredients with the expansion then.
There's no new chit sets, but they give 4 more sets of special powers to the 5 that exist in the game.
Okay, all right.
Yes. And then you have 3 different coin types that you can use to visit the witches, and there's 4 different witch boards.
So the witch boards add more special powers to the game, basically.
Yes, but not new chits.
Gotcha.
Other than the coin chits. So I'm not sure how it works. I haven't played it. I'm just glad that I have the 5th player because of number of people in the house.
Yeah, absolutely.
And most of the times I'm always scared about the 5th player edition or the 6th player edition because sometimes they dilute the game and make it weird, or don't try to really, they just give you a board so the game breaks down with that extra player a little bit, but I don't think this would at all.
Yeah.
We could also talk about the cover for this game. It almost seems like it's poking fun at the old school, like the old school Euros where you just have a market stall and somebody standing there shopping. So this one does this, but there's so much color, there's so much interesting thing in it. It's almost like one of those, find the hidden objects games where there's so much little details you can find and look for. You can make a game out of the cover.
It does have cool, cartoony, almost style art, definitely colorful, but it definitely has like reminiscent of the Euro style because you have these kind of plain buildings in the background, right? Everyone on the cover is got a shoulder turned towards the viewer. Those traditional Euro games do. Someone's always offering something to the player. Take a look at the cover of Istanbul if you don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Or the really bad cover art on Concordia, actually.
I was just going to say, is at least it's better than Concordia. That game, Concordia, is the one game that I had the hardest time purchasing because of the cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is a good cover, folks. This is a good cover.
Yeah, this is a great cover. I think they did a great job with it.
It's got good shelf appeal.
All right. So, did anyone have anything negative to say about the game at all?
Oh boy, no. It is the perfect game.
I'm not going to go with it's the perfect game. But I really think overall, any negative that it could have is minor.
Yeah, I didn't pick up anything. I mean, this is a game that there should be things that I didn't like about it. But no, I can't think of anything.
Oh, other than my daughter winning.
Well, no, I mean, I sat down and I learned it in about 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I played it with everybody, and I felt like, again, I was learning a little bit more as I played. And by the end of the game, I felt like I finally understood it well enough that I was like, all right, let's go play it again. I didn't feel like there was anything that once I had learned it that I was, that didn't make any sense. Why was that even in there? No, like everything, all of a sudden, everything finally clicked. And when it clicked, I was, okay, now I know how I want to play this game the next time. So
Right.
Yeah, I can't recall if I've ever had a moment in this game where, that was no fun, or I've had moments where I was like, oh, that didn't pan out for me. Like I made choices that didn't work. That's on me.
Yeah, it's either on the strategy that you lay out or it's on the luck of the draw. I mean, that's a factor. So
yeah, or you're being experimental. I've done that periodically with games where I will try something and I won't know if it's functional or not before I try it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe in future games, if I'm way ahead, I might, secretly take out the double rat tails.
We always get those like the first or second round, and it's like, oh, I get to double 1.
Yeah, that doesn't help at all.
No. But the other thing to it this leads into is the replayability of the game. I think that is really high. Mm-hmm. With all those different levels, you get 4 different levels, and even just with the base game. Once you play all 4 different levels, you mix and match them any way you want. There's a lot of permutations of the game. And even with using the same level a couple times, there's multiple different strategies in that level that you can do. So the replayability of this game is astronomical. So overall, I think that we all recommend the game.
Yeah.
About it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It is definitely a great game. It's one that I'm really happy to have in my collection, and I will be playing it for years to come.
Yeah, I just picked it up this year or last year, but mine's certainly not going anywhere anytime soon.
This one, like most of the games I got, came from Nathan.
Yeah, I like this enough. I bought 2 copies.
And there's now I need to figure out how to get it off my daughter.
Hey, I just wanted to take a second to talk about some changes that we're going to make. These are all positive changes. We do this for fun, and we are going to doing it indefinitely no matter what. But a couple things that we wanted to talk about was that we are updating the website. We're going to have a new articles tab, so you can see different tabletop gaming articles on there. We are also going to be trying to put up more YouTube content, so hopefully in the next months to come you'll be seeing more of that. We're going to be changing the format of the podcast. We're not entirely sure what that's going to be yet. We're working through some kinks, so give some time. We also have a couple of podcasts still being edited, so that will be, you won't see a dramatic change quite yet, but later on you will. If you have any suggestions for what you would like to see in the podcast, please send that to podcast@tabletopgamingguild.com. Also, we are looking to help cover the costs of the hosting and the podcast feed and want to get better mics so we can increase our audio quality and make it a lot better. Trying to work at that intermittently through software, but it'd be nice to have actually good equipment. In that effect, you can greatly help out if you like our content to subscribe to both our YouTube channel and to the podcast itself. That helps out a lot. So we're also trying to do Amazon affiliate links. So if you like the product we're talking about, they'll be in the links below. Just know that we get a small commission off of that. It's going to go to, again, paying for hosting, and it's going to go towards hopefully getting new mics and just basically equipment for the channel. And purchasing anything that's greatly appreciated. It won't affect the cost of the product you're buying on Amazon, but it does help us out. So that's greatly appreciated if you can do that. Also, if you just want to throw us a couple bucks, you can go to the tabletopgamingguild.com and click donate and just give us a buck or two. All that helps. If you would like to give reoccurring support, you could go to the Tabletop Gaming Guild website and go to the support tab, and on the support tab that'll take you to Patreon, and you can become a Patreon supporter. There's added bonuses to that. You will be able to join our Slack channel, which is for members only, and on there you can help us determine what we're going to be talking about. You can join in discussions about the podcast with the host, us, directly. So there's a lot of benefits to that too, and we're also using that to help gain funds to be doing like board game giveaways and other fun stuff that we do with our listeners. So that's also greatly appreciated. Finally, just to remind you guys that we have a open Discord channel. So the link will be down below for that. You can join that, and that's just a community-centered discussion for anything tabletop gaming related. So please feel free to enjoy that. Also, you can join our Instagram and Facebook feed. If you join our Facebook channel, we also have a Tabletop Gaming Guild group. If you message me directly, I will add you to the Tabletop Gaming Guild group, which is a lot of fun there. It's a little bit more private. But again, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed all the content, and you guys have a good day.
Thank you for listening. If you have any feedback for us, feel free to visit us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or Board Game Geek Guild 2989, or our website at tabletopgamingguild.com. And don't forget to like, follow, and or subscribe. Tabletop Gaming Guild is a product of Tabletop Gaming Guild, LLC. All rights reserved.